beautiful beings. My name is Becc, and it's lovely to be with you. When I was a little girl, I dreamed of having a safe place to be, and I dreamed of having a horse and an animal farm where I had ponies and cats. I dreamed of having friends who were playful and fun, and I dreamed that my spirit guides who were with me in every moment of my life would fly me away from the experience that I was living. And every day I would wish for this. Every day I would wonder why I couldn't create it. And every night my father would come to my bed and betray his role. And almost every night my mother would take me to men who I didn't know or understand and betray her role as a mother. And every time that would happen, a little part of me inside would fly away, and she would imagine that she was in that beautiful field with her pony. And sometimes her spirit guides, who were beautiful, loving, feminine, elf-like looking women who seemed to have a glimmer on their skin, who sung to her. They would come and they would be with her as she watched her body being tortured. And they would help her hold the overwhelming confusion, and they would help her put away that feeling somewhere far away so that she might live. And her spirit guides would sing to her in very old ancient language. Some call it light language. And she would fly to the stars sometimes, and she would go to the sphere of Jupiter, and she would know the sound of Jupiter, the big, ominous, deep, rich vibration that would come just as you got close to the energy field. And her spirit guides would turn into dolphins, and they would take her on her back, and they would fly her away from everything that was happening to her body beneath. Because she was small, and she could not cope with what was occurring for her in her life. And as that little girl who then grew up, I am so blessed and happy in this moment, in this point in my life that I have reached, where I am now living that dream that I once had of freedom, of safety, of connection with life. For those of you who may not know, I grew up in an organized cult environment. There was also organized child trafficking or pedophilia. My parents would throw these parties that would start out as a kind of Bible study sometimes, or a movie gathering, or selling some pyramid scheme product. But then later a lot of people would go home, and then the people who were there for other reasons would stay. And I endured this for many, many years. And whenever the trauma was happening to me, I would break off away in my mind. Sometimes it would be a healing energy, and my spirit guides, who always stood by me, were standing next to me, singing to me, and helping me to move through, and helping and holding my energy together, helping me stay alive through incredible torture. But sometimes it would be a process of dissociation. Have you ever had an experience, maybe a car accident or a loss? That moment someone tells you that someone has passed, or just a massive failure, some experience, and you had the thought, this can't be happening, this can't be happening. Or maybe you felt like things moved in slow motion. That experience is the beginning stages of what we might call dissociation. And it is your protection to tell your brain this isn't happening, so that you can survive. Your survival system can pretend that it is not happening. There is different forms of dissociation, and when you are a child, you are not yet fully formed in your personality. We create what we call personality around the age of 8. Up until that point, you are more like a blended mix of different states of feeling or different states of psyche. A psychologist might call these ego states. And we actually retain ego states as we even become an adult. The way that you are different when you are with your friends than when you are at work, than when you are talking about a serious discussion with your parent, than when you are playful, than when you are sad, than when you are really scared. All those different states, you are still you in all of them, but you are in a different ego state. But you could almost see it as being a different self or a different version of yourself. When a child goes through extreme trauma that is repetitive and severe enough, and they do not have any safe attachment figure in their life before the age of 8, before the time where the psyche has fully integrated the personality, they can develop something called dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder. It is not like what you see in the films. Mostly those are distortions, as a lot of mental health things are distorted in Hollywood, etc. But the brain does not put those ego states together to become one self-identity at the age of 8 as it otherwise would if it had the correct conditions. That child's brain is trying to survive through something so overwhelming that it utilizes, takes advantage of the fact that this is all unformed and still kind of messy, and it keeps those sections of self separate. It keeps them fragmented. And this works. This allows the brain to keep that child's core or essence, their stability within themselves. Because a child who is being raped by their parent repeatedly and has no one to turn to and cannot escape, fight doesn't work because they're too small. Flight doesn't work because they probably tried and it didn't work and they're tied down or they're just trapped. And they are also attached to that parent because that person is simultaneously a source of danger, but is simultaneously their only source of survival, for shelter, for food, for basic emotional needs, if at all, to be met. So their brain is in a conundrum, a survival conundrum. The only way for them to move through that conundrum is for them to pretend that it's good dad and bad dad, and bad dad doesn't exist, and we're just going to pretend that that doesn't happen. And we're going to shove that down. We're going to be in that story of this isn't happening, this isn't happening. Whenever bad dad or abusive part of the person comes out, this isn't happening, this isn't happening. And if a child does this in that very vulnerable state enough, and the trauma is enough that they have to keep doing it, they will develop what's known as an alternate personality or an alter. But that is really a piece of themselves, of the one personality, broken. And that's part of why this condition was changed to dissociative identity disorder, because the idea that there are multiple personalities is incorrect. You have one personality that has been broken into pieces and not been able to integrate correctly. And this is a very smart, very powerful, beautiful mechanism. And it keeps the child's awareness away from the fact that they're being hurt by their dad and the person who feeds and clothes them every night. So they can get up and go to school in the morning and pretend like everything's fine. This is to prevent their nervous system from completely collapsing. This is to protect them from a total psychosis of that horrific conundrum of being trapped in this reality. And that's why if you've ever been in a car accident or you've ever had something very traumatic or overwhelming happening, you might have felt like you were floating up above your body. You know, a lot of sexual assault survivors talk about seeing it happen from above. They dissociated. There's an unconscious mechanism that's saying this isn't happening, that's happening to someone else. Look, I can see them. This is all something that happened for me as a protective mechanism when I was growing up. And your brain keeps using it as much as it is needed. So once it seemed to help me out and survive when I was little and at the very young ages, my brain would keep doing that and keep using this strategy because it works. And so as a teenager, as a young adult, I still had different parts of myself because there was no other choice. I wasn't safe yet. I had to keep the trauma away. I had to keep it out of my full field of conscious awareness. This meant that my journey of healing was probably different in many ways to some people. This meant that I didn't know who I was. This meant really difficult experiences of having memory loss, of being dissociated from oneself, of having different parts take over. Feels like a takeover because the part of yourself that is more everyday and more conscious goes away, and you don't have access to that anymore. And those switching happens as needed. And so this makes it very confusing. Your experience of yourself is very confusing. Your experience of healing is very confusing. You have a whole system of denial protection that says, I am not in danger. I'm cool. It's all good. And that is protective to a point because it also keeps you in danger. If you don't know that, if the victim doesn't know that they're experiencing what they're experiencing, they're kind of screwed. For me, I had a massive collapse of my dissociative barriers in approximately the year 2016. I had been trying to heal myself, yet not fully understanding what was going on with me. And I was at a spiritual healing kind of group event. And I was doing this presence exercise. And I was just eye-gazing with this woman. And I actually had a very clear, completely overwhelming flood of a PTSD flashback just come into my awareness. It wasn't triggered. We weren't like doing anything or saying anything. It just happened. That was the opening of the door of the tidal wave of the remembrance of who I truly am and the different parts of myself that had been keeping me safe by hiding the truth of my family life, the truth of the reality that I was very in danger. And I, from then on, have been on a massive healing journey. I had to get out of the danger I was in. I had to save my cats at the time. I ran from the people, the perpetrators, the abusers. I disconnected from all family. And it was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things that I've ever done, and I've done a lot of hard things. And I ended up running to a different state. It took me another year to find a therapist who could actually help me, because a lot of people are not experienced or skilled enough to manage or understand healthfully this level of dissociation and trauma. When I found a therapist, finally things got a bit better. But my journey has been so rich and deep. And I started this talk by telling you about that little girl who envisioned a horse and pets and friends, because I'm now living in that life. And after 6 years of intensive therapy and longer years of deep spiritual initiation with my spirit guides, who became my healers, and I became the channel for my own healing for this, because mainstream therapy was supportive and helpful, yet it wasn't the core thing that shifted. I kept falling into really deeply suicidal states. I kept feeling like I am not at the peace that I want to be. I cannot make this trauma stop. It is too much. And then I had amazing spiritual miracles happen to me. And my life is a spiritual miracle. Every life is a beautiful miracle. I believe that. But my life I share with you now because I know that process of putting myself back together was given to me and chosen by me. And my spirit guide said this when I was a teenager and I was 16 and I was being sold to men, strangers, in various places. My spirit guide would look at me and say, one day you will be free. And I was very angry at her and at them. And I didn't believe her. I was angry because I could see them but not touch them. I was angry because they wouldn't rescue me. But now I know that what she said is true and real. And I had a lot of talks with my spirit guides about, get me out of here. And they would keep sending me the message, we can't, you chose this. And sometimes I could take that in, but sometimes that would really upset me. But when I went through the process of putting myself back together, and it became a mission of, I cannot heal this. Like just me, I cannot heal this. This is not working. Please help me. And I surrendered. I had a deep surrender and I dropped into my heart. And I still remember that first day, that love energy came up into my heart by itself. Like I wasn't trying to make it happen, it just happened. And I concentrated on it and I was terrified it was about to disappear, but I was like, okay. And it grew. It grew with my concentration. It grew with my focus. And I understood, oh, I'm building this energy in myself. I can build this energy. And I had this beautiful moment of, I might actually heal. Because I had been absolutely, there is a lack of words for how destroyed my psyche was by what I had been through. So many fragments of myself, so much drugs and hypnosis in this cult thing, so many beliefs. But the one thing that was always there and always was there and found me and made me find myself and has always been there is spirit. And I dropped into my heart on my knees on the floor this day, and a beautiful pinky energy love angel, angelic presence appeared before me, and she said, if you follow the path of love, you will heal. And I knew it then that, okay, it's love. Love is the medicine. Love is the panacea. Love is what I need. And I'm crying out because this is where my devotion to spirit is so deep, because my spirit has always been there. And this is my message now, and why I speak, is that your spirit is always there for you. Your spirit is inside of you. And if you learn to listen, you will mend anything. You will heal anything. The traumas that I had been through, the conditioning that my mind and my body had been put through, of being electrocuted repeatedly and having statements and certain cult beliefs put into my mind as a 4-year-old and then repeated and older. There are people that have professionals who say that you cannot heal from this level of trauma, that you will always be somewhat not whole, that you will always have some level of PTSD. And they are wrong. They are wrong. They do not know the power of your spirit. Do you know the power of your spirit? Do you recognize that every frequency that you need to heal is inside of you? That any alchemy you need to do is inside of you? That there are loving spiritual beings around you right now talking to you, who are really real. People have this abstract concept of spirit guides and of our multidimensionality. And this is another part of my passion too, is that we must choose to remember and re-own and reclaim the multidimensional nature of this world. When you deny your spirit, you deny an entire portion of who and what you are. You lose the power that you are. You are not just this one individuated perspective. Do you realize that? You are not just one idea as Becc, and let alone any other identities that you might have on this plane. You are a source, a channel of light. And when we heal, we reintegrate our multidimensionality. We reintegrate our spiritual consciousness. And we bring that higher part of ourselves into our body. And I fully know and believe that that process and understanding that and being able to share that with you is why I was put through the initiation of my particular life. Because I was over here, like way down the end of the spectrum of complete disconnect from oneself. I was split up into 1,000 fragments. I could not be a person. Sometimes I would say that the people that are just living their life and are just like just a you have no idea how lucky you are and how blessed you are to have that experience in yourself. When you're all the way down here and you're trying to heal, it is every day getting up and finding the strength to go on. And that is the level of commitment that I had to be and become. And that is the level of commitment that you still need to embody and become if you want to become who you truly are. And that's why my work is about you remembering the essence of who you truly are, because who I was stolen from me. Who I truly am for a long time was covered over by conditioning and pain, which we all have and all experience and we all need to move through. Yet I had this additional intensity of it, And I remember being 4 years old, and these group of men who were sick in their mind and organized in this cult were repeating to me something really negative that I'm not going to repeat now, but it was a negative belief. They wanted me they wanted to implant that I am bad, that I am evil, basically. And they were saying this to me over and over while I was tied down, drugged, and had been exhausted by electrocution. And they were repeating it over and over. But 4-year-old little me, who I remember being so exhausted, but I remembered this moment that my spirit guide, there was one moment in my experience where she came to me and she glowed white and she glistened like a see-through beautiful moonlight, and she felt like the sea, and her aura smelled like the ocean, and she looked like stars, but she looked like me. She said, "You stay alive in here," and she pointed to my heart. "This is how you stay alive." So in that moment when those men were chanting to me, little exhausted me remembered, okay, go into my heart. And I remember going into my heart and repeating in my own mind, even though they were repeating out here, I was repeating, I am love, 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 I am love. I remember, I am love. And as I did that, a beautiful pink energy of my heart started to grow up and around me. This field started to get very big, and it shielded and protected me from further influence of that negative energy coming into me. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to understand the power of your spirit. So many people walk this life like it just ain't no thing. It's just, but you need to understand what you are if you want to remember who you are and embody who you are. You need to say, I am going to go into my heart and I'm going to commit to anything my intuition says to me, and I'm surrendered to that, and my life is to that. That's what my life became. I became devoted to the voice of my spirit and the will of my spirit, because it was the only pathway for me to heal, and because it was beautiful, and because it is the truth of who I am. And in doing so, I resurrected myself. I reclaimed myself and I integrated all of myself. And I'm speaking to you today in part because I am celebrating, in this recent period, I am celebrating the complete fulfillment of my journey. That is not always complete, it's going to move into overflow, okay? It's going to move into overflow. But what I mean is that I dropped into full integration of myself. My being no longer feels the need to operate as separate parts, or not as much. And that has been a goal of mine for like 6 or 7 years, because that's how long this journey takes. You cannot process trauma like this with just a click of your fingers. And I am so happy about that, and I am so grateful, and I am so a miracle, and this is freedom, and this is blessing, because this life where I have a horse called Venus, and I have cats, and I have beautiful friends who I play with, and I have abundance, and I have a home, and I have safety, and I'm surrounded by nature and greenery. This is all I wanted in my life. And I did it. I did it, and you can do it, okay? If I can do this massive journey, you can do yours, and we can each do ours, and we can create heaven on earth. That is what we are here to do. You are here to remember who you are, and when you remember who you are, you embody your sovereignty. When you remember who you are, you embody heaven. You embody your goddess or God within you. And then that overflows out into your external experience. And this is the intention or process of alchemy. Alchemy meaning to transmute, to change your state. This is when we change our frequency, which is all healing is changing from a low to a high frequency, so that you can reintegrate those higher aspects of yourself. Anytime you reintegrate a lower aspect of yourself, you free up that higher energy or higher expression of yourself, and you become you. And I am blessed to be here, and I wanted to share this with you because this life is just such a miracle and so beautiful. And maybe it's because my eyes have seen so much darkness that I can see the light so clearly. Maybe it's because I cried over every sunset. And I remember I sat on this lake when I first got free, and I was like, I can't believe I'm here. And maybe every new milestone is, I can't believe I'm here. Because I am devoted to this life. I love this life with all of my heart. I love this earth because I know that no matter what was done to me, or the people of this earth who are unwell, who harmed me, or those in our world that make it dark, they just don't know about the love. And again, I remember even when I was like 5, I remember looking at them and the darkness and the gray and the black in their field. And I remember in a very childlike innocence thinking to myself, why don't they remember? Why don't, like, if we could just remember love, then like maybe, you know, I thought maybe they'd stop hurting me. I couldn't understand this idea of not remembering love. Can you understand it now? It's crazy. It's insane for us to be living in a world, or for you to be living in a way where you are not embodying the essence of what and who you are, which at its core is love. It's insane for you to not be understanding the love power that is within you. What if you just listen to it? What if you just rise into that calling back to love? When do you remember love? When do you forget love? Because all we are doing here, all we have been doing is forgetting about love. All we have been doing is forgetting who we are. This is an experience of remembrance. This life is a container for one thing, and that is the alchemy of your spirit. That is the reclamation of your electromagnetic power, the sound of light that you are, who came to be beautiful just because you are and because you exist, and that is joy. Many times people have asked me, what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose? Why does the cycle just go round and round? And I asked Spirit, and Spirit said, why do the birds sing? For the joy. Why do you sing that song you like? Because it's joyful. So you are here to remember how deeply loved you are, and all the shadows and all the trauma is just a little bit of a portal, or a big portal, for you to reclaim the remembrance that you are loved, you are holy, you are divine, you are joy, and it is a joy for all life that you are alive. And there is a deep reverence and gratitude for your existence and for my existence. And I am so happy to be here with you. And I invite, by the way, anyone who's watching, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to enter them or leave a comment later. Questions for me about my journey, questions about spirit, anything. And yeah, this life is here for you to remember who you are. And my life was a beautiful prayer. I started to recognize at a certain point that my life became, it came because it wanted to be a prayer. And that actually every life is a prayer that your higher self intended to manifest. The same way that you intend to manifest that, you know, beautiful relationship that you want, or whatever you're thinking about and wanting to manifest, your higher self intended you. You are so holy and so beautiful. And nothing that happens to you in your life, and nothing that happens to our world, is stronger than love. My experience showed me that my light is untouchable. My purity is untouchable. It is ever light. It is ever always. It is ever love here on this earth. Bree has asked, will this be saved? Yes, it will. Because I want to share so much. And I'm sharing with all of you now because I have been called to speak more about my story, to speak more about what I've been through, with an intention that it's not really about the trauma, it's about the healing. It's about the power of love and the power of spirit and the remembrance of love. If you have a pathway for my voice to be heard, please leave a comment or send me a message, meaning if you have a podcast, or you know someone that has a podcast or a YouTube channel or a speaking event, something where this message can be shared, because I am doing this because Spirit told me to. Spirit has told me to just use your voice and share, with an intention that this inspires people. And it's not so much about me, it's about the healing. It's about the message of love. And this message of love came because it will positively impact the world. You came too, because you positively impact the world. And I'm just finishing up writing my book as well. So if you are a publisher or you know of a publisher, please do reach out to me. I am calling in alignment publication. I am calling in alignment speaking opportunities, all of that. Again, because I care. Because I care about this so much. And this is an initiation for me. This stepping into my full wholeness. And I'm still going to be here speaking to women particularly, but all people, about sovereignty, about leading yourself home, and about remembering love. When you remember love, you remember who you are. So thank you so much, anyone who has tuned in now or later. Please do send me a message if you would like to tell me your thoughts, if you would like to work together. I do one-on-one and small group mentorship, also classes. If you have a connection to someone with podcast, speaking, etc., let me know. If you want to share where you are with love and devoting yourself to spirit and integrating yourself and your multidimensionality, leave a comment if it feels okay to do so, because everyone's story is meaningful. Everyone is a part of this joy light that we each are. And I love you so, so, so much. Thank you.